So this class is BAS 3315, Programming and Algorithms. It's considered a gateway into the majors. Okay, students must take this class before they can get into any other class in the major. The whole process is to get students to understand the idea of this department and also what's going to happen in the next few years in their life. So most of the class should be designed based on the theory. That's my rationale. Because without the theory, you just go in all directions and you don't know what's going on. So the theory that I'm using is called Community of Inquiry. It is just celebrating 10 years anniversary a few years ago. And this theory has only 3 components. The first one is social, and then cognition. So this two presence is based on teaching presence. The teaching presence here is us, teacher. We are the one designing social and cognitive presence. We are the one giving students the experience in the class. So as a teacher, you have to do the following first before you begin the class. You have to make sure that students open up themselves so that they are comfortable in classroom. They open to their friends, and then with that they would be able to share knowledge and to talk to their friends, because students come to university to hang out with friends. Is that true? Well, there are quite a few reasons that students keep coming to the class, and that's one of the big reasons. They have friends in class. Right? Without friends, they would just sit there and they would just zone out. So we have to build a class that can have that element in it, so that students would keep coming back. So the social presence must be the first objective before you reach the cognitions. Before you allow them to learn something, they have to be comfortable before they want to learn something. So after the social presence is built in, then the cognition or the cognitive presence is kick in later on. You have to build the critical thinkings, the systematic inquiry, and the metacognitions, meaning thinking about thinking. They have to know how they learn. They have to know the strategy that they would learn best, because students are different. With this theory in mind, then I went ahead and started the class. And the second step is to look into literature, because in every field, no matter what you're teaching, there is a research in teaching and learning in that field. Okay. In engineer, there's teaching and learning engineer. In English, tons of information about how to teach English, whether as a first or the second language. So look into the literature and the resource that I have at hand. And this is throughout many years that I keep collecting all these resources. So the first one is, I've learned recently that Facebook, I've started using Facebook long ago as a teaching tool, but I just realized that with this component, it is so effective. And it is called Facebook group. I'm sure that all of you know Facebook group, what it is, but what is the difference between Facebook group and Facebook page? Anyone? What's the difference between Facebook group and page? Let's say in terms of members in there, which one can gather a lot more friends or members in the rooms? Page can have a lot more fans, right? When we talk about Facebook page, we talk about fan page. But Facebook group, we talk about members. So the idea of these two things are radically different, because in Facebook page, it's more like you want to be a public figure, and you want people to click like on your page, and then you can gather more fans and more and more. But Facebook group is more of a community. And then I start using Facebook page for so long, and the interaction was not really there. Okay, mostly I would post something and students would reply, or they might click like or something, but that's that. When I switched to the Facebook group last semester, this is what happened. One student posts something at 7 p.m. The assignment due, keep in mind the assignment due at 11. at like almost midnight. Typically, I set up the assignment to be due on like 5 minutes before midnight, so that they would not argue that whether it's like today or the next day. If you set it to midnight, it'd be really confusing for them. So I set it like Saturday night at 11:55, always, every week. So with that, student, this person at 7, coming in and ask question, and the rule is that we would not give away the answer, but we can provide hint to friends. And if you expand this comments, 24 comments, many friends helping each other throughout the time up until almost 9. They're helping each other without me intervening anything. And finally, this person could be able to figure out what's going on and submit the assignments on time. So this would not happen in Facebook page, but it happens in Facebook groups because it's private. Students feel more secure, and they could say anything. They know that their friend outside the class would not see what's going on in here. So with this, you have to set each group for each semester. It's a lot more work than Facebook page because you set it up once and then it's there, right? But this generates a lot more interactions. And now, well, we're not going into whether it should be rules or it should be official or not in class. I know that many universities, mostly abroad, they start talking about this, whether we should use the external source as the main resource for our class, but we're not there yet, right? Some students might come in and say, I don't play Facebook, or because it's not our resource that university provide. That might be an issue. So what I'm doing most of the time is that I post it here and I post it on the forums, or I post it on the LMS too. So, double posting, make sure that students who, I think it's just only 1% of the students who didn't have Facebook, and most of the time when you say that please have Facebook for this reason, they would do so. Okay, and there are quite a few students start using Facebook from my class. Surprising, but it's happened. So that's the first thing that I've learned. The second thing is forum discussion. And if you look at this SP, it means this, social present. So I start with social first. The social must come first. So Facebook group is the first thing that I set up, and I put it up on top of the LMS page that join the groups, be on the Facebook group so that you get the news and everything in the class. The second thing is discussion forum. This forum is early on in the semester, and this is kind of bizarre that I have this forum in the programming class, but I find it really effective. So this forum is, if you look at this post, this is from NPR, saying that, well, what would you say to yourself, your 30 years old self? This is a post from a girl, a single mom. She's struggling in her 20s, and she raised her kid, and she also attending college. So, and she's a blogger. So she posted online asking people help, people in their 30s, to reflect back to what would you say to yourself in your 20s? How can you pass that period, which is so difficult? And she got tons and tons of reply. It became a hit during that period. And it's a few years ago. So I tweaked this into our forum in our class by changing from 20 to 30. I asked students to do the same thing, sending a letter to themselves in the next 10 years. And I asked them to say something about their personal life, about their aspiration, what they want to do, where they want to be in the next 10 years. And many times students open up in a way that you would not imagine. I have students trying to forgive himself, that he was really not a really good student in his 20s, and he hoped that his 30 years old self would be better and forgive him. And I have students coming out in class with this forum, which I have to stop that post and asking her first, do you really want to come out? And she said yes, so I let that post fly. So that happens, but I would say that it's about 10-20% that students really open up, but that generates a lot of communication in class, because all these kind of posts get a lot of replies. Another forum that I have is, that many times we want to bring in experts into our class, and we want students to get to get a sense of what is it like to be working in certain professions. But we might not have that much time. So what I did is that I tap into friends and then I interview him or her for free, right? You just buy lunch or something and then record the video and, come back and do the editing, and then you post it online and you ask students to watch and reflect on it. And if student really into that profession, you can teleconference with the person later. But you have to start with this so that students don't feel overwhelmed by having to prepare to listen to someone, and you don't have to sacrifice your class for this. You can put this online. And this would be like half an hour, 15 minutes to let the person talk about a certain professions. Okay, and this is also very successful. I'm bringing this back this semester because the first cut of the video was 35 minutes too long. So I asked students to kind of re-edit it to make it a little shorter. I wanted like 20 minutes or 30 minutes at most, so students can engage with this. Again, this is starting to move from social present to cognitive present. I start asking students to think about something in terms of learning, but it's not into the content yet. So now another theory that this would apply to every class, I believe. Most of the time, students would learn something or students have some prior knowledge that they can transfer into the classroom. When I design the class, this is like a game, right? This is the type of learning program by playing. So I want to transfer this into this. This is a really difficult way to learn the programming. And I ask students to start from this before they can learn this. So I hope that they can transfer the knowledge, like some system thinking from one system which is easy. This is designed from MIT for kindergarten to learn programming. It's called Scratch. Okay, and there are many tools that look similar to this, that drag and drop, and then you can fill in some information, but mostly it's more like drag and drop stuff. It's much more like playing games than learning. And then when students learn this, they should be able to transfer some knowledge or some thinking skill into this kind of coding, which is a lot more difficult. But so far, frankly, it's not been successful. Maybe something wrong with the design, so I kind of put this in the break right now. So in class activity, I believe that many of you learn this way in your kindergarten, in your primary school. When you learn your activity books, you start with there's some content, right? And there's some exercise built in with the content. So I did the same thing with the undergrad level. And I found that very effective. This is not my idea. This is from one of my advisors and committees member in my dissertation. She used this in class, graduate levels, did some lecture for like 15 minutes and pause, and then asked students to do something with the statistics, to check their understanding, come back to lecture again for another 15, 20 minutes, go back to the exercise. And this is like adult learning, and they loved it. So with the student, it could be done the same way. And if you build in within the same material, it would be a lot easier for students to grasp the idea. Well, I did the lecture a little bit, and then some exercise. Students fill in something, and then go back to the lecture, and then switch this back and forth within the lecture class. So students feel a little more active, right? And I walk around and check their works. So I'd never give the answer key to students. Never, ever. Even students ask. They have to do it in class. So if they miss the class, they have to follow from their friends. And then pair programming. I think that this technique could be applied to many contexts. There's one belief in programming worlds that being a programmer is lonely. You staying alone in the office, looking at the monitor all day long, not talking to anyone. It is not true. And this proves that it is not true. What I ask students to do is to work as a pair. And there's a protocol in this. The first thing is that there has to be only one driver. One student only can touch the computer. Another person is the navigator. Much like when you do the Paris-Dakar. One is the navigator, right? Another one is the driver, helping each other. The person who is on the computer would have to do the coding and talking through the process. He or she would have to say, okay, I'm typing this in, I'm putting this function in because of this, and I think this code would work this way because of what. And then the navigator is just listening and pointing out some error if that happens. So they're constantly going back and forth. Well, you could imagine this with many contexts, right? Doing math, if you ask one student to just listen, another student to do the work and talk through it. That could also improve learning for both of the students. There's one caveat. Two students should have a similar level of knowledge. So I start using this pair programming after the midterm. So I gather the assignment score and the midterm score, and then I match students at a certain level and then pair them up. And for each week, they switch pair. So they get to know their friends. So toward the end of the semester, they know everyone. And then another thing that I ask students to do, and this could apply in any class as well, you have to get them prepared for this pair programming. So something that you might not think of is that, well, first thing is that you have to stick with your role. If you are the navigator, don't touch the computer, don't grab the mouse or keyboard, just do the watching, okay, and talking through. And then be nice, provide constructive feedback. And last thing that some students did not think of is that you have to shower and you have to brush your teeth before you come into class, because you're sitting really close to your friends. So I have to stress on that issue too. So student as a novice, they would learn from their friend who is a little better than them, right? And student that is really already good in programming, they would be able to transfer the knowledge to their friend. And this is better than us as a teacher sitting down with them and do the coding, because we are the expert in the field. They know that in maybe the next 5 years, they would not match our level. So they have less motivation to learn. But if they know that their friends can do it, then they know, oh, well, their friends that they see all along can do it, then they should be able to do it. They have more motivation to learn. Next thing, also, this is quite a few specifics, debugging skill. When students have problem with decoding, you start collecting what went wrong, what's the common mistake, and then you build that in with the next semester as a part of the exercise. You know this is the most common mistake, put them as the exercise question. So students learn from the mistake from the previous semester. So you have to start collecting all these mistakes from friends. The next thing, which is also a little few specific, but I would argue that this could go into any type of context, is the visualizations. And it's few specific because these tools that I found online is specific for programming. When you throw in the code on your left-hand side and you click visualize, it shows the diagram of that code on the right-hand side. So this is computer generated. Students type some code and they could trace their progress. They would be able to see what's the values going on, which values sending to which variables, and all those things. And they could catch the errors. But I would say that in some other fields, for example, in engineering, in biology, they have a lot of simulations that you can use in your class. And I bet that there are many free tools available out there. In literacy, there are many tools that can map vocabulary, thesaurus and all those things available online for sure. Okay, you can show that to students. This word is a root word for some other words. And then, you can build the mind map for students online. That's also available if, you spend time and dig into the information. Now, the next thing, which is the very popular nowadays, is called gamification. And I also use this in class. This is, I have a little luck because this is, again, relating to programming. You play the game. It's more like playing game because it's a small chunk of learning. And then the system would give you feedback and it would give you score. And then you build up your score. When you earn enough score, you get the badge. And then you can share the badge to your friend via Facebook and Twitter. So it's more like bragging out that you're learning something faster than your friend. And I build this in as part of the learning. Self-learning, they do it at home, they get 5% for free if they finish the certain module that I asked them to do. But it shouldn't be specific with just only programming, right? How many of you know Khan's Academy? So Khan Academy is a good tool, and it also have this thing, the teacher dashboard. So if you identify yourself as a coach in Khan Academy, you can ask students to assign us as their coach, and then you have this big panel showing progress of all your students in class. So there are many tools that building this day that allow us to do this. So if it is, well, Khan Academy have all kind of contents, math, biologies, histories, and all kinds. And you can ask students to do the certain module, and then you can go back and check those progress without having to talk to them. You see how much they learn. So the panel for a person would look more or less like this. This is my own panel. It shows the progress that I've learned 3 different languages here, and I have 45% and 39% like this. And the total point is 400. And then these are the badges that I earned lately. And you can share this badge online. So, you can show your friend, hey, I just earned a new badge. In Khan Academy, it's pretty much like this. This one is assignments. This is the one in Moodle, but the one that I use is a little different. Typically, you ask students to submit the work, and then you have to grade the work by yourself. But this is automated grading for programming class only. So all kind of languages that you can do, most of the popular language in the world, the programming languages in the world, you can have this system to grade, to help you grade. So I prepare the case. When students submit the work, we would consider that like a black box coming in, and then it's just like one big black box. And what we do is that we prepare the input. Let's say we want students to build the program that can calculate the area of the triangles. What are the input, the base, and the height, right? So I prepare base and height value. Throwing into the system, spit out the data. Data should be correct according to the input. We don't know what student write, but we only need to know the input and output must be correct. And we could prepare many cases as possible. Right now, I prepare 3 cases here, different input, different output, and this student got all correct. So he got 30 marks out of each. So if you fail one case, then you get 20 marks, for example. So this is automated grading. Right now, I have almost every week's student work. And I would have to come in and check some students who get low score. But for those who get full score, I can just go through really quickly. So this helped me doing less work and also allowing students to do more work. And I do the feedback for students who need help. But for you can also have a similar setting like this. You grade and then you give feedback to students. And then you can identify those who are in need, who need more help. Quiz could be a good learning tool and also a test tool. But for us, we would like it to be a learning tool, meaning that you have to provide immediate feedback. For example, this is the fill in the blank kind of questions, like a coding like this. And then student, if they submit the wrong answers, then you have the immediate feedback when they finish the test. And then you would allow them to test multiple times. The key to ask students to learn in this setting is like they have to do it many times. And then you can randomize the questions, of course, but you would want them to get themselves exposed to the system as many times as possible so that they learn different type of question. And then you need to provide feedback. This is a lot of work actually, but you can do it once and then it will be available for the rest of your career. I mean, you can improve it over semester, but the hard work has to be done once. Another technique that I use is peer grading, which is the workshop module that I talked earlier. What I give to students is the rubrics. And then I ask them to grade their friends' work according to the rubric. And this rubric is, again, depending on your context, right? If you are grading English essay, you have to find the appropriate rubric. For me, it's grading the programming files. So students need to grade the certain criteria, for example, the correctness of the logics, the styles, how many lines that they write to achieve the goal. One student might use only 5 or 6 lines. Another student spend like 20 lines to achieve the same goal, which is like too many lines. And the formatting, whether the indentation is good, whether they use the same syntax and all those things. So I outline all these criteria so that students know what they want to grade. But still, what I found from this is that not many students really pay attention to grading their friends. So you really have to do it many times. Or you might need to train your students to do the proper grading, because some students just go through and give all full score to other students. Some students are really mean to others, like they give really low score to other students and giving like not really helpful feedback. Okay, so you kind of have to adjust the balance at the end, because students, they don't have the same standards. How do I put this all things together? With all those activities and resources and the literature that I've learned, the first thing that you have to think about is the mark allocations. As we discussed a little earlier in this seminar, that what's the formative and summative assessment, how much we can put in the summative assessment. And I bet that most of the time, the external committee would be happy if you have 40 or more than that for the final exam. If you have less than that, you have a problem. Your supervisor needs to defend for your mark, right? But if you have a little more than that, that's fine. For the midterm, I don't think they pay much attention. So typically you have 20%, you can have 25%. So I leave about 40%, almost half of the class score for the online assignments. And it's economics. If you don't give them marks, they would not respond, right? That's like, you don't have to learn the hard way. I mean, everybody knows this. And then many faculty who start putting optional assignments, what's the outcome? No one submit the work because it's optional, right? So you need to provide a score. 5%, 1%, 2% is okay. You could like divide the work into really small chunks, and I have every week assignment, forum postings, and all kind of activity. But it would take up about 2 hours, 1 hour per week for them, or at least like 3 or 4 hours. Think about this critically, because you have to have the formative assessment. And formative assessment means you're doing it in class, and you also need to give feedback immediately to students. And that is a lot of work, so keep that in mind. The more work that you put on students, the more work on your side too. But you help students learn and grow. So try to automate as much as possible if you can. But if not, then you can have to set aside time for yourself. The next thing that I do is that you have to divide what you learn and put into the right context. For example, this class is on Tuesday and Thursday. So on Tuesday is the lab, on Thursday is the lecture part. So in the lab class, I have debugging skill and pair programming. Students learn all these two things. Pair programming has to be happening in class. And debugging skill built into the exercise in the lab. So in the lab, no lecture, just work, just exercise. Okay, I would do the prompt for like 5-10 minutes and then walk around. Students do the work by themselves with their friends. And for the lecture part, lecture in class and visualization, sometimes I would show the code and go through the code with the students. Now the online, that's most of the thing happen here. Online start on Tuesday and ends on Saturday before midnight. So student knows that they can have a night out on Friday, have fun with their friends. And I don't do it in Sunday because I suspect that most of the time all the class would have the due date on Sunday, and then the server might crash. So I kind of move it ahead a little on Saturday so that I can avoid those kind of mishap. Now I have Facebook group, discussion forum, assignment, quiz, peer grading, and gamification. All this happening online. And 100% without intervention. Students doing it on their own. What I would do is, after they finish the work, I do the grading, I do the feedback. Okay, but the learning is on their part. Okay, and most of the time is asynchronous, meaning that they can do it at their own time. When you set up the meeting, it's difficult to coordinate. Right? Even if like 5 students, it's still really difficult. Students might have technical issue, oh, the camera doesn't work, the audio doesn't work, then you have to wait. So if you set up the meeting for like at 8 p.m., it might begin at 9 p.m. because of all those technical problems. It should be asynchronous if you want to do this, because it's easier for anyone to do at their own convenient time. Some students doing it at midnight, some would start doing it at like 3 a.m. It's up to them. The final step on this, the whole design. How do you know it's good enough? When you go to see a doctor, would you be okay with the doctor just looking at you and write down a prescription? Is that okay? Without touching, without talking through what's going on? It doesn't make sense at all, right? So in teaching and learning, it doesn't make any sense if you don't ask students how they want to learn and also how they want to experience their class. It's just like going to the hospital and get the prescription without seeing a doctor. So what I do almost all the time is that I have evaluation 2 times. So the most critical one is during the midterm. So you can change course. So you can redesign the class on the fly. And then you can get the feedback from students that they know is meaningful to them. Because most of the time they can give feedback at the end of the semester, right? It will not reflect their life. It would reflect someone else's life, their junior friends, for example, unless they are really poor, they're coming back to class. So most of the time, the final evaluation doesn't really make any sense for them. It might be for us because we are teachers, we can improve every semester, but for students, they would feel more connected to the class when they can give some feedback and then they know it changed their life immediately. So what I do is that most of the time during the midterm session, I would open up online survey and they could fill in anything at all that they want to with this very simple question. The first question is, what do you like most in face-to-face? What do you like most in online? And then the second portion would be, what do you not like the most in online? What do you not like the most in face-to-face? And I also ask them to give suggestions. The thing that you learn from this kind of venue without talking to them is that you might get the feedback like this. This is in the lab class, face-to-face on Tuesday in the lab. I got this kind of feedback. No need to kneel down next to anyone. In the lab class, sometimes when you sit next to a student, the 2 seats occupy already. And the only way that you wanted to approach student is to kneel down. Or else you have to risk the back pain all the time, right? Because you have to bend down and talk to student. And at this age, you don't want to get into that troubles. So sometimes you kneel down. And not just me, I've seen many faculty teaching in the lab did the same thing. And as it turned out, you never know. Students are not comfortable with that. Most of the time, female students who are wearing a short skirt, they're not comfortable with that. So they would never say that in your face. This is anonymous. I would never know who said this. I might know, well, it's a female student, but I don't know who. So they could say whatever they want. What else? Well, this is like content specific, but it's something like very detailed. Like, oh, it's not English, mathematics. This is a programming class. But hey, we are in international school. English is the key of communication, right? So what does it mean green color? What does it mean yellow color? This is the compilation of the feedback that after the midterm, I go back to class. The first thing that I did is I showed this to students. I talked through it and I told students what I agreed to change, what I did not agree to change, and why. So students know that, okay, their feedback means something. And this, after that, I never kneel down. But this, I keep doing this because I think it makes sense. So what else that you would get? You would not think that students would give a constructive feedback. They did, actually. Some of them spend hours and hours to give feedback. Now, this doesn't mean everyone would do so. I would say about 20% of students would give you feedback during the midterm, but those who did spend time on it, they gave really, really good feedback. So look at this. I mean, students sat down and did this for us. Really detailed. And look at this, like more examples, more exercise, should have something that can make students get to know each other. After this, we launch more like interactive and like social events in the class. Okay, and sometimes I didn't provide solutions, so I make sure that I give solution to every exercise later after the exercise is due. So these are the feedback that sometimes, you know, it's good practice. Sometimes you just forget. You know, sometimes you forgot to review the previous lesson before you begin the next sessions. So students remind us about this. Because students know how to learn. Some of them. So when they know how to learn, they give us idea. Okay, so this would be a reminder every semester for me. This is the end of these sessions, and the ending is with that. This is the whole process that I did in one class. And it's the only class that I feel comfortable with, okay, that I can share with you. The other 2 classes, I'm still tweaking it. So, I mean, the whole process is like this, starting with the literature, starting with what you want students to learn, and then put that all together and make sure that you put the right activity in the right setting, online or face to face.